on today's episode of Reality Hub.
Because I think a lot of people went into that freak out stress mode at the beginning of it all. It was all to do with fear, and it's legitimate fear of, hey, I could lose my job, I could lose a lot of money.
And I suddenly realized that actually these two small things, seemingly very small things, were critically important to me.
You get to see how situations and circumstances in life exaggerate the personality that you are. And this lockdown has done that for me.
But now that we're a few weeks down the road, I feel completely different. I'm a lot more relaxed, a lot more centered, a lot more empowered.
That's awesome.
And welcome back to Reality with Reality Hub. And today we have our famous special guest, Jimmy Burroughes, back on the episode. And Rob, both of you are coming to us from Auckland. I'm live in Pyro, and we're all in lockdown. And today's episode is going to talk about coping with COVID-19. Oh, my pizza's arrived just on time. Come on in.
Look at that. Service and smile. Oh, my goodness.
Are they still delivering in lockdown there, Steve?
Yeah, they're still delivering in lockdown.
So you're at level 3 in Pyro. That's good.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Yeah. I'm so jealous.
I don't even know who that lady was.
Somebody off the street, one of the neighbors, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been a while since we had an episode. And I don't know about you, but I've started to feel pretty guilty to our listeners who tune in and catch up with us regularly. You must have been a little bit sort of, hey, where's the next episode? But we have, well, me personally, I've just been phenomenally busy, and that's a real flip up from what I'd expected when everyone in New Zealand locks down and so many people have stopped working. But I'm with a company that continues to work, and I'm working from home. But I've had to work in a new environment, so it's been a real change up for me. And what about you guys?
Yeah, I'm in sort of the other camp. So I was, as I was saying before we hit record, I was in limbo and transition between work, and then the work that I was sort of looking towards going for is going complete lockdown. So, to begin with, was kind of like, oh, okay, what do I do here? But I've seen the positive in looking at, well, okay, if that's what's happened, then that's sort of made up, given me the direction I needed to just take more time. And to, as I was saying before, I'm in such a better place, a such more centered place and such more grounded place because of now that we're a few weeks into this, we've had time to process and go through the things that I needed to do to sort of get myself in equilibrium. And my go-to is always, how's my overall wellness? Am I looking after myself? How am I feeling about this? And to begin with, I'm sure everyone shared this. It was this case of fear and uncertainty and, WTF, what's going on here? And, like anything, when you're a few steps further down the road, you get a bit more clarity, you get a little more sense of the environment, the ecosystem that is been, that we're in. And so you have a better handle on it. But you guys have been steady with work and having to adapt. So I'd imagine that would have been challenging to kind of adapt and then continue working under these conditions.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I guess because I've been working remotely for such a long time, 2.5 years now, working from cafes, co-workings, coffee shops, hostels, friends' lounges, like literally anywhere I can rest my laptop, I can work pretty much. That I was really expecting to transition to this lifestyle almost seamlessly. I thought, level 4, I can do that. It's easy. And so level 3 was a doddle for me because I could still pretty much do everything I did before. What really hurt was losing the ability to get a takeaway or, go for a walk in the park with a friend, go to the beach. And the other one that really hurt was losing the gym. And I suddenly realized that actually these two small things, seemingly very small things, were critically important to me. to the point that I really went into a bit of an emotional dive about probably 2.5 weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and was really struggling with this feeling trapped. And I had to double down on self-care to really pull myself through it. And thankfully, I do know what I need to do to get myself out of a funk. And that's, I guess, is a byproduct of having I use a little app called Dailyo, which is, I think we talked about this last time. I can track my moods, and I can also track the activities that have led to those moods, and therefore I can use that as a lead indicator to get me out of those moods. And so I pretty quickly I managed to pull it back. But it was that trauma, and we talked about this just beforehand. The essentially a grieving process.
Yeah.
For the old way of living, and then a period of anger, non-acceptance, disbelief, blame, and then finally acceptance. Yeah, it was literally. And of course, it's not a linear journey. The grieving process. It's actually a matrixed thing. So you imagine sort of the 5 stages of grief, and you can just zip between any of them, and you can go back from one to another and then back again. And so I was literally sort of flying around all over the place in this grieving cycle, and then finally I got to acceptance of, much the same as you, Rob. How do I make the best of this situation?
Right.
And I guess drank my own Kool-Aid in many ways and said, well, what are my options, or what are my opportunities here? What can I do? And so then started really going down that track, and since then I've been flourishing.
Great. Yeah, I mean,
what did you do? What was the thing that you felt made you flourish? What was the turning point?
For me, it was self-care. Absolutely. And I think this is one of the things we're probably going to get to later on is, if you asked your kids to change schools, move to a new country, change the language they speak, sit in a new classroom, as a parent, you'd be quite compassionate about the level of change and trauma that child was going through. But as a leader in a business, or as the voice in your own head, we're far less compassionate, it seems. We expect people just to get up and running quickly. We expect ourselves just to deal with this and just get on with it and keep working and do all the things we did before, but just don't go out. And I think a lot of people haven't been kind to themselves and the people around them enough in order to get that transition to take place, to help that transition take place. So what did I do? Well, I stepped back and said, well, what do I need? What's the self-care thing I need to do that's going to get me back on track? And for me, it was, stop drinking, start running, basically, get more sleep, eat better, look after myself.
Just the basics, right? Yeah, the fundamentals. Yeah. Because there was kind of this whole notion that you needed to be real productive in this time. Like, what new language are you going to learn? And what new skill are you going to pick up? And there was this real push, like, oh, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life because I've got all the time in the world now. And I'm going to, learn yoga. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. Like, as you mentioned, there was a process to this transition. You don't just switch from the world being one way to the world being a different way. You got to navigate that. And if you're not looking after yourself and getting all this pressure, it's like always trying to be positive when, hang on, I'm not feeling positive. You can't really fake that. You got to process the negative stuff and get to the root of, how am I feeling about this really? And the ability to share and do all that. And you hit the nail on the head. You went back to the basics of looking after yourself first, getting yourself in the right headspace, making sure you're eating well, sleeping well. Yes, the gym's closed, but you go for a walk, you do some other form of exercise, you improvise. But yeah, I mean, I'm always about wellness and self-care because, what good are you if you're not healthy in a good state of mind?
Exactly.
And the thing is,
you can't deliver the businessy stuff if you're not doing the self stuff. You can't be an awesome employee, an awesome parent, an awesome partner, unless you're looking after inside here and inside here.
Yeah, if your cup is not empty, if your cup's empty, then you can't give anything. So
exactly.
That's nice. I think we become more of what we are in circumstances like this that exaggerate the opportunity to discover who we are more as people.
Right.
Rob and I, in an early episode of Reality Hub, talked about my theory on what happens to people who win lotto. And they become more of what they are. and that if they had terrible taste in furnishings, don't look at my house down here, but if they had terrible taste in furnishings, they would go buy a new house with just more gaudy, horrible, terrible taste because they finally have the money to express more of who they are. If they liked having like V8 Holdens on the lawn rusting, they'd just go buy some new V8 Holdens to rust on the lawn. If that was what they're into. If they're into drinking, they'd just drink harder. They'd become more of what they are. If they're into traveling, they'd travel more. And you get to see how certain situations and circumstances in life exaggerate the personality that you are. And this lockdown has done that for me. I'm not, I just feel like it highlights the problems that I have with either my routine or the way I've been working that could be better, or lack of self-care. And I did all those things already, but this has highlighted that more. We were talking, which is why I love what you're saying, Jimmy, because I can so relate to it. And I spoke to Jane today, who is the show psychic. Well, she's the only show psychic we've ever had on, so I'll call her that.
So she's the show psychic.
Show psychic.
How is Jane, by the way?
She's great.
Great.
She's painting and she's doing home consults over the phone.
Yeah,
so
good,
I mean,
awesome.
for her, that sort of work can continue. But she said, from her perspective, and she gave me a really practical perspective, and then she about the effect that this will have on people. She said, I really think a lot of people are going to leave their jobs. They're going to find that they've had a chance to evaluate their life and then go, I'm liking being at home with my kids, or I've been at a job I've not liked, but I've been just too busy to ever really think about anything in terms of planning for, is this how I want to live? Because I'm just in this hypnotic routine of every day, busy, and I don't stop to think, could it be different? And then she gave me the spiritual woo-woo version of that, and she said, I think this was always meant to be as a kind of a spiritual reset for people to really think about what they're doing. I mean, take it or leave it in terms of that kind of thing philosophically, but I couldn't help but think there's something in that.
Oh, for sure.
Not a bad call. Not a bad call. Yeah, there's. I think it's Warren Buffett, isn't it, who said it's only when the tide goes out that those people swimming naked get found out. And it's that pressure test moment, the gaps, the shortcomings, the things you haven't really got down that you're kind of bluffing to get by, are things that show up, and that could be in your, as you say, in your personal routines, in the way you work, in the way you manage your relationship. It's a pressure cooker we're in right now. And yet still we have to hit our KPIs, and we still have to hit our targets, and we still have to make that revenue. But there's, without any sort of latitude and space for the fact that essentially we've just asked people to start to swim and climb a mountain and learn how to abseil and do that in Spanish, and all these other things were thrown at them in one go.
So this whole pause, hitting the pause button, as you said, Steve, it starts to highlight the things that maybe the things you weren't, it amplified those things that you weren't happy about to begin with. Yeah. Because you don't have the distractions and the busyness to distract you from it. So it's like, I use that snow globe analogy, that our normal life is busy, and then as the snow in the globe settles, you get to see the terrain, and you're stuck with your own thoughts and your own being, and you've got to really start filtering through that. But it also brings up the question, like the way we were living life before, the systems that were in place, maybe they weren't the best systems that we need from a purely, maybe for make in a commercial sense or in a business sense or KPI sense, but maybe not from a personal level, from a well-being level.
Well, see, that
I agree.
In that. And when you when we were talking with you, Jimmy, about coming back on, I'm really grateful that you have a passion to want to help people, and that was why you said you wanted to come back and make some suggestions about what people can do, because I think we're constantly addicted to the news at this time. And a lot of people are being affected by what they're hearing every day, and they want to see the latest update on how many deaths there've been or how many people have caught it or where will we be. And I think there's a lot of value in cutting time off that screen time and finding strategies to cope. What sort of things would you suggest for people are going to be helpful?
Yeah, good question. I mean, get rid of social media would be a great one. Just the overwhelming volume of content that people with goodwill are pushing out is crazy. I remember reading a statistic a couple of weeks ago that said that LinkedIn traffic was up 430%. May or may not be true, but it was either whatever the number, it was definitely there's definitely an increase. The sheer number of posts about help and how to work remotely and all these things, it's just too much, and there's a real danger of exhaustion there. So really minimizing or getting rid of your social media right now is potentially a good thing, or just using the social messaging aspect of it to connect in with loved ones.
Because
I think
you bring up that point, but how do we connect with people if we can't physically be with them? We're going to use social media, so it's quite a tough one to kind of get rid of social media when it seems to be the go-to. We've got the technology, like we're using it right now, although we're not, it's on a different sort of platform. I almost feel that people during this time are going to spend more time on it and get more invested in it because they're wanting the distraction. They're wanting to know what's going on. It's the go-to. Like, what else am I going to do? I'm not in my usual place of work. I can't go and visit my friends, go to the cafe, etc., etc. I'm going to be on that Insta, on that Facebook, on whatever, YouTube, all the time.
Well, I think there's a difference between consumption and communication.
Yeah.
And so, don't disagree with you that I want to connect in with loved ones and friends. I mean, that's key. I try and send a text message every day to 5 people who I haven't connected with in a while, just to say, hey, how you doing? What's up with you? And I think you guys actually got one of my first ones I did when I just said, hey, just checking in to make sure things are going okay.
Yeah, that was cool.
But I'm not using that on social media. I'm doing a text message or a WhatsApp message, and I'm having FaceTime conversations with people. I'm having WhatsApp video conversations with people. So it's the difference between consumption and communication. Right. Yeah. Sitting and scrolling is consumption, and it's unhealthy and it's time wasting. And you're right. I talked to a few people and they said, "Oh yeah, my screen time on my phone is up so much because I've got nothing else to do."
Yeah.
It's like, well, what else could you do? What are your options? Oh, there's nothing because I'm stuck at home. Well, have you got a TV? Yes, do a Les Mills workout then. And there is that danger though to want to fill the time. And so that's the second point. Would be give yourself some space, give yourself some a bit of a break. You don't have to learn Spanish and yoga and pottery and baking and all the other things that people seem to be wanting to do. Maybe there's something you've always have wanted to do. Maybe take that time you were spending on social media to go and do that thing. But you can do that for 40 minutes a day. It might be that you wanted to read that book, paint that picture, do whatever it is you wanted to do. But again, it's that. So the second one is don't consume, communicate, and then create is the next one. So it's what can you create? What can you bring to life that is a passion for you? So that's the second one. The third one would be care, and we talked a little bit about the self-care piece. But how can you care for those in your bubble, in your circle, in your whānau? How do you really look after them? So again, it's that checking in through communication, but it can just be the gesture. We've got a really cool little street email chain running in our street here in Auckland.
Wow.
And there's people are saying, does anybody need shopping picked up? I'm going to go to the supermarket, send me your things and I'll go get them for you. So we're minimizing exposure. There's a lot of old people in my area. So people dropping off things at their door for them, just caring about each other.
That's great.
Man, that's amazing. I primarily took off to this little town to get away from the Auckland queues and supermarkets and the madness of being surrounded by people in fear.
Yep.
But even out here, and I love this town, it's a really neat little place. I see people, although they're so friendly down here, I still see the odd person come in absolutely masked up when I'm not entirely convinced that's going to help much, especially when I'm looking at their mask and I'm thinking, oh, that's got to be at least 3 days old. They're supposed to be disposed of after a few hours. Or that's a cloth mask, not an N95 one, so what's the point? Or you see them decked out in some kind of homemade hazmat suit made out of black linen. And I watched the person do that and I thought, oh, wow, they're really concerned. They're really
people are terrified for sure.
Yeah.
There's and I think there's a place for the mask, even if it's just a visual deterrent. And I think certainly in the early days of this, I think people are getting a bit more kind of aware now. But I think in the early days, people were blasé walking around the supermarkets. I think about even when I was at the supermarket, people coming so close to me in the lines and whatever, and I'd be like, "Hey, 6 feet, dude! 2 meters, come on!" And I think when you turn around with a mask and go, "Hey, look," then they go, "Oh yeah, mask. Oh yeah, that's a reminder, mental prompt for me a visual prompt for me to take space, make space."
Well,
I see. Yeah, I'm keeping distance from people. I'm not wearing masks and so forth. But I noticed that today in today's supermarket shop, which I did today, and I haven't done one for a couple of weeks because when I go, I buy a lot more than usual to last a little bit longer than usual. And I saw all these people at Countdown working, doing their thing. No masks. They're the workers, and they seem to be fine with it. But where I would normally sort of truck on through with my trolley past someone, I would just wait. You do your thing. I don't need to pass you today. And it's really slowed things down a bit for me.
It's really interesting how our behavior has been altered. You go to my local park just across the road, and normally you walk past someone and they're walking a dog, but now they're steering clear of you. They're getting out of your way. It's real interesting that in a short amount of time, our behavior has just been altered so quickly. And I see two sort of realities playing out. The people that are super cautious and are fully kitted out with their masks, or in some cases I've seen people, it's almost like going to Armageddon or Comic-Con. They're fully geared up and you're going, whoa, okay, it's a chance to play dress up. And then there are the people that are kind of like, I don't need a mask. I'm not going to buy into the fear. Maybe I'll be a little bit careful, but you can kind of see that they're a little bit more relaxed about the whole situation. I guess that's just human nature. It's whatever.
I think there's a difference between relaxed and blasé.
Are you mask wearing?
Am I mask wearing? Yeah, when I go to the supermarket, yes. And I'll wear gloves as well when I'm in the supermarket. I think that's mandated now. And that's literally because I don't know who's put the stuff on the shelves and what state of wellness or sickness they might be in. So using the gloves means I can take it off the shelf and put it into my basket without contaminating me or the risk of me. And then when we get home, we put everything outside and we wipe it down with a soapy cloth before, if it's possible to do that. Some stuff, if it's paper packets, then you can't. But it's just thinking cautiously. And so, yeah, I agree with you, Rob. It's being cautious, but not being blasé.
Well, that's fair enough. But if that's mandated, are you saying that your local supermarket is not letting you in unless you're in gloves and a mask?
They provide gloves at the door now.
Do they?
So there's a box of disposable gloves at the door. So you stand in a line. There's a guy with the shopping carts with a Dettol wipe, and they clean the handle of the shopping cart, and then they give that to you, and then you put gloves on or sanitize your hands and then put gloves on. And if you've got a mask, then you can wear a mask, obviously.
And again,
that's New World. I don't think I'm going to catch something by somebody sneezing on me, because if you're that sick, you probably shouldn't be in the supermarket. But for me, it's the visual deterrent. Stay away.
You saying that is so interesting to me, because I'm in a country town. I got away for this purpose. to be out of Auckland, and they're not doing anything like that. And I guess they also aren't getting anything like the foot traffic probably that you are in Auckland. And so maybe there's different policies depending on population levels.
Potentially. I don't know what the operational procedures are in the different supermarkets.
And
I know that the new world I go to is pretty busy. The big park one, so it might be just that they've taken their own agenda on that. I think it's great. I respect it.
Yeah, well, New World has a high number of owner operators, so they can do whatever they like. Really, yeah, that's really interesting. So, Rob, did you have a few things that you wanted to check in with Jimmy about that you're telling me you had a list of?
I think Jimmy covered off really well the whole consumption versus creativity. So it's kind of taking that, everyone's going to be in a different situation in this lockdown environment. Some people are by themselves, some people are in family situations. It's just endless, the amount of situations that people find themselves in. But I guess the number one thing is, like whatever situation you happen to find yourself in, how are you best going to get through this and get out the other end without having a big toll on you, considering that a lot of things are out of your control. So it comes back to what can you control? And I think, Steve, you're right. It's whatever level you're at. Like I'm the type of guy that's going to go down the path of, okay, I'm going to meditate every day. I'm going to exercise once or twice a day. I'm going to just focus completely on my well-being. And I talk about mental hygiene, getting that in place, because, your reality is created by whatever is happening up here, your internal belief systems, your programming, all that stuff. And also, not getting, I struggled to begin with navigating the territory of what's really going on here. I wanted to find the truth behind it all. But how do you find the truth with so much information coming at you? And so then I had to pull in and go, okay, I'm going to go within myself and just start focusing on my internal world and come from that perspective and not be buffeted by all the stuff that I can't control in the external world. So, but one thing I can say is that for me, a routine was critical of having a game plan. And I watched a YouTube video from, I think it's Gary Hadfield, the guy that is an astronaut, ex-astronaut, spent a lot of time in the space station.
I saw him talking about
talking about isolation. Like you're spending months and months isolated with human beings, and how do you, what are some tips to get you through if you're stuck in your bubble in your home? And he said, breaking it down into small bits so that every few hours you know what you're doing next, so you don't get caught in that vortex of, oh shit, I'm freaking out here, I'm freaking out. So having that self-care routine, breaking the days down so that you have the structure and discipline, and then it becomes easier each day as you do it because you know what's coming up next. So if you can control your internal environment, then it makes the external environment seem a little less scary. Because, before this happened, the world was an uncertain, volatile place as it was. You could have traveled overseas. There could have been a hostage. Anything could have happened. But I think now that the light's been shone on how the world, a different reality of what the world can be like, we're going, oh shit, actually the world isn't the way I thought it was. And it's starting that deeper thinking of, oh, we took this for granted and I viewed the world this way. And now, whoa, what's going on? Like, this can happen? Like, wow. And that can be a huge anxiety from an existential point of view. And I think a lot of people are going through that. And it is existential sort of crisis. But it depends on the individual.
I buy that. I think a lot of people are going through that. I don't think you are, because you've always been really good with meditative type of routine. I mean, that's just a piece of cake for you, Rob. And I know that. But then Jimmy, have you ever seen those personality type questionnaires that you get in various office places where it says, Jack is a man who gets energy from other people and likes to be around others to get energy from them. You ever seen those sort of statements come out of personality tests and the old, I am an INFJ type or whatever.
Yep.
Well, I think Jack's going to have a real problem, if you're that kind of dude, if you like to get energy from others, because you're stuck in this environment where if your bubble doesn't have a bunch of others in it, you've got no one to get energy from. And I mean, what does that really mean? Get energy from others? Does it mean that you can't thrive or revive or recover from a good night's sleep on your own? Does it mean you can't be in your own company? And I've always, when I've heard that thing about those personality tests that read like that, I've often thought, well, we can all get energy from others, but it depends where we sit in that spectrum. Am I someone who just gets a little bit numb enough, or do I need to get a whole lot more to feel fulfilled? And I think we all are adaptable in that we can get energy from others or from ourselves. And this period of time has been trying to readapt to finding who you are as a person, which takes me back to that whole thing of this period of time has exaggerated who we are as people in ways that are really painful to come face to face with, because we've got no choice but to listen to our thoughts sometimes. If you're in your own bubble at home on your own, you've only got yourself and your own habits that are on repeat, and you go, and they become aware. You become more aware of them where they were previously subconscious. I think people went out for Friday night drinks or whatever because that was an escape mechanism that now they don't have, or they would drink or do certain activities or whatever because that was their coping mechanism, which is not necessarily, those aren't all available to people now. So they're uncovering more of who they are as people that they didn't have to think about before. That's becoming more conscious.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm not sure I'd agree with everybody getting energy from people. If you're a strong introvert,
concept, actually. But
so extroverts for sure. If you're an extrovert, you're energized by company and people and interaction. Introverts de-energized or sapped by having to engage with people. I think
that's exactly what I'm talking about. It was those personality tests that you're the sort of person that does get energy from others, whereas Bob is the person that doesn't. He's the introvert, you know. And I always wonder, do you think that's
yeah, absolutely. And the test that springs to mind is the Myers-Briggs or 16 personalities. There's various versions.
Myers-Briggs,
and all these things tend to be used to pigeonhole people. You're this 4-letter code, therefore you must be this type of person. Well, no, you're this type of person when you took that test in that moment with this emotional state in that context. And I agree with you when you say about the exacerbation of character traits. For me, really, I was really connecting with what Rob was saying around people in existential crisis. And it took me back to the model we spoke about a couple of minutes ago around that communication, not consumption, care, and creation. The pieces of that really are creating the mental space, the bubble around you of safety where you can stabilize yourself. And it sounds like, Rob, your practice is meditation. That gives you your space. That gives you your bubble of safety that you feel like you're in control of more of your total space that you're occupying. The people who are out there kind of consuming everything and serotonin and dopamine overdosing on little hits on social media and are checking in with everybody and are doing Spanish and are doing yoga, if they're really high energy people, great. Your average person has peaks and troughs throughout a day, and you can't sustain that for a long period of time. And that's one of the things we're starting to see now is the adrenal slump, as people are running out of adrenaline and just feeling exhausted because they've tried to live this different lifestyle and not taken care of themselves, and they haven't created that bubble of safety. They haven't locked down the pieces that are faulty. And to go to Stephen's point, the pieces that aren't quite as swept up, they haven't sorted those pieces out.
So if you were a predicting or a betting man, where do you think we're going to be at when the month is over? What do you think they're going to say?
Oh, look, I think we're going to be in level 4 for a while, or certainly really minimal movement for a while. I'm hoping that they release a few of the sanctions on some of the small businesses that I'm sure are really struggling right now. Your takeaways, your cafes, some of your restaurants and bars. I know in other countries they're doing kind of click and collect meals from restaurants and stuff now, which is great. It'd be really cool to see that open up again. But I think social context like gyms, hairdressers, those kind of businesses are probably going to struggle for a little bit longer, have to struggle through. The reality is, though, and I'm certainly not a political mouthpiece here whatsoever, but I think the government's been really clear in saying, we went hard early, so we got this back under control. Let's not waste it. And so, even though we might have done a month of this, I think there might be an extension because we haven't yet fixed it, and it's going to be a long time.
Wow.
What does fix it look like in your eyes? Or I'm just putting this out there.
Yeah, good question, eh? It's not going to be a return to what it was, that's for sure. The world is fundamentally different. I read a really cool McKinsey article earlier in the week, which talked about the next normal, and planning for sort of 5 horizons between the start of COVID and the next normal. And part of that is the need to really look at the way your business, your life, your existence, your organization operates, and choosing to navigate a new path. And that could be a pivot. It could be a new business process. It could just be a different way of communicating. But there's going to be a difference for every single business that comes out of this. And I think businesses that all they're focusing on right now is getting back to, when 4 lifts and we go down to 1, we're going to keep doing it exactly the way we did it before. They're going to miss a trick. They're going to miss opportunity. For innovation that's going to happen around them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing exactly that, Jimmy. I really do. I think they're going, this will be over and we'll return to normal life.
Yeah, just holding out till we can go back to what we did before. And it's interesting, I was reading a thing today, Uber, Airbnb, I think Alipay, and a couple of others. What was the other one that I read? I can't remember. But it was all these massive disruptive entities were all born in the GFC. So what's the COVID innovation going to look like? And which industries are going to be disrupted?
Uber's an interesting one because they rely on you jumping in that vehicle.
Well,
that model, I know it has other models, but
it's not just how a business is going to adapt and change. It's the fundamental way we live our lives. Like, what about all the events and gatherings and groups and parties and socializing? That's what I'm looking at. If you just want to go to a cafe,
conferences are going to change. Training is going to change.
That to me, because businesses, can adapt, but fundamentally the way we operate as human beings, whether it's being on a public transport, or think of, we're social creatures. We get together in groups, and whether it's in the workplace or in a leisure time, sporting events. Just the list is just endless. Like that. We need, physical contact. We need to be in the space of other people because that's the way we're operating as energetic beings. We connect on so many different levels. So just connecting via technology is is a substitute, but I don't think we're wired up that way as human beings. We miss out on the nuances and subtleties of being human. And I'm just coming from that point of view. And that's the way we are. It's just a part of it's who we are. So that's what I'm.
The idea of hug a friend in the future. The thought that maybe people won't do that really bothers me. Hey, buddy, how are you? Here's a hug.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to be a more immersive AR, VR experience is going to be, how we achieve some of this stuff. Yes, is it body to body contact? No, it's not. But we might go to pop concerts now in our VR headsets. We might go to conferences in an AR context. And I was thinking about one of the big areas that I've certainly paid attention to is the conference and events industry. I've been due to be speaking at a few events, and either they've been cancelled or postponed or virtualized. And I was thinking about, somewhere like Las Vegas hosts tens of conferences a week, hundreds of thousands of people every week flying to Las Vegas to go to conferences. And they have these enormous hotels with thousands and thousands of beds. They have all of the catering companies, all the printing companies that make the lanyards and the tickets, all of the taxi drivers that move people from the airport to the hotels, all of the bars and restaurants that live on the trade from the evening, dinners out and whatever it could be. And they've all just been completely stopped. So all those people have been disrupted. All those industries have got to rethink what they're going to do. And so I think some of them are going to go, well, how do we do AR, VR versions of a conference? And how do we digitize ticket sales? How do we give people an immersive leisure experience from their home?
It boggles my mind, because I think about how, I want to travel more, and that involves getting on a plane or some sort of transport, and it means congregating in airports and meeting, but it means going to a different country and meeting different people and different etc. Well, that's it. I can't get my head around the fact that you won't be able to travel the world and visit different countries and just socialize with people as a society. It just doesn't. That's just my.
It's a heavy idea. Right?
Yeah.
Every country you fly into requires you to be in 2 weeks isolation. Then a weekend trip to Sydney is 4 weeks and 2 days.
Absolutely.
Guys, it's been a really interesting episode. Thanks for tuning in. Any final words before we wrap up?
These are interesting times, and I'm sure a lot more is going to unfold. But I think it's important to not go too far into the future and get what's the word, down about it. Stay present and take care of the things that you can take care of and control. And I'm kind of the 51% positive, 49% negative kind of guy, the glass half full. So I'm putting out there that this is an opportunity for us to grow, to evolve, to come from an empowered place. And I think the more you can do that, then the more you're going to navigate this situation and cope. And I think the way I look at it, if you've got to always, if you're in a woe is me, what can I do about this? Then that's not resourceful. So come from a resourceful state. If worrying about things really helped, then we'd all be doing it. So the less you can do that, I think, that's the big battle. The battle is, how are you going to deal with this on a personal level? If you can empower yourself, then you can then shift your focus and help other people, and not go down that road of, I don't like to buy into the drama. I want to always feel like I can. I think as I've grown older, I've learned to navigate my own territory within and not go down that path of negativity. And if you can pull yourself out of that, then you'll just feel better.
Nice one.
That was amazing, dude. Yeah, for sure. I think for me, two things. Three things actually. First one is to completely echo Rob. That focus on what you can control. Don't worry about the rest. Create that bubble of control for yourself, so that you can manage it more effectively. So taking all that external noise away, paying attention to the bubble that you're existing in, and looking after that, the care. The second one is, for sure, I want to extend an open offer to anybody who's struggling at home on their own right now, or is really mentally going through some hard yards. I think all three of us at times have struggled with mental health. And so from my perspective, that open offer to just connect, if anybody wants to talk, I'm sure we'll share the details in the podcast notes around my Instagram handle. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Just connect with me through Instagram, and I'm happy to have a chat with anybody who's really struggling in that space. So just at Jimmy Burroughes. But it's, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like life is becoming a bit too much for you right now, then just reach out. And there are plenty of other avenues to reach out to as well, but my offer is there. The third one is, wow, this is just the most incredible opportunity time. It may seem like it's super tough right now, but it's that, what can you do? What options have you got? What opportunities can you create within the power of your control? You choose how you react, and you choose what you choose to do. And so where to from here? What can I do that's going to make a big difference? And, there's so many cool things that people are creating and sharing and being generous with, that the planet's going to be a better place if we all just try and give a bit more.
It's true. The planet is seeming to be taking a bit of a breather. Well, I think for me, this time teaches you who you are, and I think it's important to take note for yourself if for the first time you're discovering things about yourself that you don't like, or that you're unable to find a solution for because you're in a restricted state. Give that some thought as to what it means about who you are and how you're programmed. And I think I heard this was a Buddhist saying, but don't worry. Instead, do something about it. And if you can't, don't worry.
Very cool.
Have a great weekend, and we'll get this podcast up straight away for those that want to enjoy the weekend hearing our sultry voices. Till next time. Bye for now.
See you guys.
See ya.